Great to see all your faces. Thank you all for joining. Thank you to all the participants that are joining on this call. This is going to be the panel on ways that majority and minority businesses can partner in success. I'm going to be your moderator and your question asker, James Caraway. I'll give a brief introduction and then I'll pass it to the other panelists and let them give introductions as well. So like I said, James Caraway, I'm a senior economic development coordinator for the Omaha Public Power District. I've been doing economic development my entire professional career in 3 different states, Kansas, South Dakota, and Nebraska. I've helped do economic development at every level, from mom and pops looking to start their first business and needing help or assistance with a business plan to Fortune 500s, needing to invest hundreds of millions of dollars of capital investment. Over my career, I've helped place over $1.3 billion of capital investment in 700 jobs in my region, and I have enjoyed every second of it. I'm from Kansas. Went to Highland Park, played football for Highland Park, and then went on to play football for the University of Wyoming as well. So love my Kansas roots. I'll go ahead and pass it to Carlos and let him introduce himself.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Carlos Gomez. I am president and CEO of the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce of Greater Kansas City. I'm also born and raised Topeka, Washburn-Ichabod. I love Kansas as well. My office is in Kansas City, Missouri, and we engage, connect, and develop the Hispanic business community. We also have a 501c3 that I'm also the executive director. It's called the Greater Kansas City Hispanic Collaborative. Same staff, different board, and that focuses more on education, workforce training. We have programs such as the Latinos of Tomorrow, which is high school and college, the Young Latino Professionals, which are young Hispanic professionals in the workforce. And we started a new program, CSL, Coding as a Second Language. So the 2 entities work hand in hand because we need a pipeline of talent to meet the demands of a business.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you for that introduction. I'll pass it to Dr. Tyra Jones.
Hey, thank you. Thank you so much, James. First of all, it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you, Curtis Pitts, for inviting me. I am not a Kansas citizen. However, I am a Houstonian. So one thing that's been phenomenal in my business is that I've been able to network and work with a lot of different businesses in your state. Of course, I am a business owner. The name of my company is JA Consulting and Corporate Tax Solutions. We specialize in structuring businesses. We have a cash flow management focus to where we work with businesses to maintain cash flow. We work with them in regards to business credit as well. And then also, we have a team of financial analysts who are phenomenal. And we specialize in corporate tax. So everything that we do is specializing in the corporate structure and also to maintain cash flow. And also I have a nonprofit actually where my background is education. So I wrote a number of curriculums a long time ago in regards to entrepreneurship for K through 12. I have a 16-year track record of teaching in the education system, mathematics. And then I transitioned about 15 years ago to start my business. And then, with the nonprofit, we offer 5 different entrepreneur programs for different age group youth. We have an incubator program. So most of everything that I do has everything to do with entrepreneurship, business development, and as well as corporate structure. The nature of how I got here is actually, just by providing a need, always being a solution-oriented individual. I provided GED courses, and then they just kept coming back and asking questions because they saw the financial literacy aspect. And so that's how we got started. So with that, I'm also building great relations in Louisiana, where we're working with the Black-owned business community within Shreveport, Louisiana. So that's my main platform. My main focus is to help the Black community by educating them on how to structure their businesses and how to really and truly grow sustainable businesses.
Awesome. Thank you, Dr. Tyra. Pass it to my man, Johnny Arapas.
Good morning. My name is Johnny Taylor. I'm the CEO and president of On Purpose. I do motivational speaking, leadership training, and mindset life coaching. I'm also the director of the Flint Hills Job Corps in Manhattan, where we work with young people aged 16 to 24 and train them in a vocational trade and place them in jobs throughout the United States. I've been doing that for over 25 years. And I'm also from Gainesville, Florida, but I've been in Kansas for 30 years. So this is home and I love it. And everything that I do and everything that I am is all about giving back and making a difference. I love working with people and helping people. So this is my passion. This is my love. And what a greater time. There's no greater time than now to build those bridges and make those connections. So you'll hear me talk about some of the boards I'm on and what's my role and how can I collaborate with others. So it's a pleasure being here. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you for all of those introductions. And as you can see, we have a great group of panelists from all different types of areas with all different types of backgrounds, and they're going to hit different areas of ways that majority and minority owned businesses can partner, whether that be in workforce or in other means. So with that, I'll go ahead and pass it to Carlos to go ahead and start his talk. Up next will be Dr. Tyra Jones, and then we'll have Johnny Taylor wrap us up.
Thank you, James. And well, first of all, it's definitely an honor to be on this panel with my other panelist. What a great depth of knowledge and connections here. So I want to meet up with both of you later on.
Yes.
Here's where it starts. As leaders, minorities and majority, we need to really focus on what policies are out there that enable everyone opportunity. And so one of those is, does your municipality, does your company have goals, minority, women, and veteran goals, that so much of their business goes to those entities? Some companies have that, some don't. Some wait for the federal government to mandate it, or a state to mandate it, or a city. So true leadership comes when companies see that, you know what, and I always hear, oh, this is the right thing to do. No, it's the right business thing to do. Because when you invest in minorities, women, and veterans, it helps those underserved communities move up and have opportunity within everyone's city, county, and state. So that's the first thing. Now, for those minority businesses out there, that's that responsibility. We need you at the table to help us lobby for that if it's not there. But that really relies on us as leaders. But what we need you as business owners is to get certified. The state of Kansas offers a minority women certification. If you're a veteran, look at the veteran certification at the federal level. But you need to get in that process, because here's what happens when I go to a company and say, how many minorities, women, and veterans are you have on this project? Well, Carlos, we don't have any Hispanics that certified, or African Americans that applied that are certified. So we have to do our part and get certified. If you're not certified, you're not going to be in the arena. And should a company only hire you for that? No, they should hire you because of what you have. And I hear that a lot from minority businesses. I want to be known for what I do, not because I'm a minority or woman or veteran. Well, being certified doesn't take away from being the best at what you do. It just helps open an arena of opportunity for that small business. Here's the beauty that a lot of people don't realize. Through the SBA, they have a program called 8A, the number 8 and the letter A, 8A. It's a 9-year program of federal contracting for underserved communities. So 9 years sounds like a long time, but it really goes by quickly. When we get a company into an 8A program, I have seen one of our members go from 300,000 annual revenue. Now this is construction, so it's easier to rise in construction, to 40 million 10 years later. by the time they graduate out of the program, annual revenues. So the 8A program is something that small businesses, underserved businesses need to look at. Here's where the beauty of it is. Here's where majority and minority can partner. Under that program, they have a mentorship protege. So a mainstream large corporation or a white male company that's very successful can mentor a minority woman company and get up to 49% of a set aside they wouldn't qualify for. So that's why they would want to do the mentoring. Why would a minority woman want to give up to 49%? Well, you don't have to give up. You can give up 30%. You know, that's an agreement that you all have to work out with your mentor, and then the SBA has to approve it. But why would you, a minority or woman company, want to give that up? You can now count all that major company's assets as your own. So I'm going to use construction as an example. As a small minority or woman-owned construction company, I may not have the bonding to do a $10 million project, a $50 million, $100 million project. But if my mentor has that bonding, I can now use their bonding and get a huge major contract. Now I do have to perform at least 51% of the project, but it allows that partnership to happen. There's only about 8,000 firms at any given time that are in the 8A program. And a lot of the 8A firms don't even have a mentor or don't even go after the mentorship protege. That right there is the key where majority and minority can collaborate together and everyone wins. Not only from the mentorship, but you can use that bigger companies. They have business development people. They have people out there working on these. You can use their project managers. You can use all their resources, and you may be a small, under 20 employee firm. So great opportunities there. And so really what it comes down to, we as underserved communities need to know the rules of the game. If we don't know the rules, we can't win. Tell us the rules and we can play and we can win. And one of my friends back in the day, he said, Carlos, just if I know the rules, I used to work for a company where they always change the rules. And he goes, I just need to know the rules so I can win. So I challenge the diverse companies out there to look into the rules of the game, learn them well, do your research, go to organizations there's plenty of organizations like us. I work very closely with the Heartland Black Chamber here in Kansas City, the Asian Chamber, the LGBT Chamber. Apologize, someone, let me turn this off. Can you still hear me?
Yep, you're good.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. So, and I'm gonna just conclude on one last thing. As small businesses, we need to collaborate with each other. We got to get past looking at that competition that does what I do as competition. You know what? If we're both doing staffing, let's sit down together and let's say, hey, maybe together we can go after a big contract. So let's just, there's so much business opportunity out there. Let me tell you, I see it all the time. But we have to be at the table. We have to be certified, and we have to go talk to people about collaboration. Because with collaboration, that just opens the opportunity, and companies actually like to see that as well. One of our members right now is a Hispanic-owned construction company, is mentoring an African-American woman-owned company. What a great collaboration. And both of them are going to be stronger for it. And so let's continue to look at those opportunities. And then the last thing I'm going to say that we can work together is we really need to have an open dialogue. And let's have that open dialogue about goals and why don't we have goals? And when there's a project coming up, is there some goals on this project? And sometimes people don't want to have that conversation. But at the end of the day, it's good for that city, it's good for that county, and it's good for our state when there's nothing's given out, everything's earned. But we have to have these goals to ensure, as Curtis Pitt said earlier, that everyone has an opportunity to rise. So I'll leave it at that, and I look forward to answering any questions about certification or the 8A program or manager protege later on.
Awesome. Thank you for that, Carlos. One thing that I want to, I guess, hit on and repeat is that we don't have to be competition to each other. I get to see things from a lot of different perspectives. Working as a manager of business development at the Chamber, I can tell you in my region, especially when it comes to construction, we had $4 billion worth of construction projects completed last year. Now we have really big companies located in Omaha, Peter Kiewit being one, but of that $4 billion, there was less than 1% of that went to minority-owned business. So again, there's enough money for everyone. I'll go ahead and kick it to Dr. Tyra Jones to start her presentation.
All right, thank you. Thank you, James. We'll get started here. All right, I want to say I definitely appreciate Carlos, you mentioning about collaborations. I do share the same sentiment. I definitely appreciate that. So we're going to get going here. So talking about racial relations, when I first looked at the title of the event, and I thought about, just the definition. I'm always looking at words, and what they really mean. And so when I looked at the word race, I used to run track, when I was in high school. And, when you're running a race is about competition, and it's not necessarily an open idea to do collaborations, but we have to, dive into a different mindset. So when I looked at the racial relations terminology I have here, racial relations has always been challenged by the systemic oppressive policies handed down by our national government. The mere invention of the terminology race indicates permanent competition for resources and status. And so, and even with that, a lot of, political figures put out a lot of strategies and how they're going to connect to different minority communities. And one thing, when I read some of those policies, I'm always reading about, this is what they say that they're going to do. And when you really get into the meat and potatoes of the policy, it really is talking about, okay, you're going to have to compete for these resources. We're really not giving you anything, but we're going to pretend like we're going to give you something. We're going to pretend like we're going to give this group, a little incentive to work with another group. But I think that personally, it's up to us as the business owners, as well as the people in position to bring these collaborations together to make it happen. So, so we're talking about how do people of different nationalities relate to one another? And again, I'm looking at the word relate. Relate has to do with relationships. And, I don't know about you, but even and I'll break it down to even a personal relationship. When you are trying to engage in a personal relationship, the first thing that you want to do is get to know that person, right? You want to get to know that person. You want to find out what their personal politics are, because that has a lot to do with the type of decisions that they make. But I find that we don't tend to do that with authenticity, I guess you would say. Here I have, we need to understand cultural differences. So when you're getting involved into a new relationship, whether it's a personal relationship or a business relationship, to truly understand culture differences, you really have to understand the culture. And understand the culture without dismissing what you don't know. A lot of times, we have stereotypes in our minds about, this type of minority business owner or that type of minority business owner because of the stereotype in the minority group. But, you really have to meet each individual as they are and accept that in your mind in order to build a better relationship. And then secondly, we can't offer solutions without understanding community issues. We have to understand that every community has their own issue. It may be similar, but it may not require the same solution. All the more reason why when you're engaging in a relationship with another business owner who is a minority or even a majority, you have to understand not only who they are, and how they make decisions and why they make decisions, without dismissing the idea of what you don't know about it, but understanding what are their community issues. And lastly, here on this particular slide, authentic understanding and empowerment. A lot of times, even through our process of getting certified here within the city of Houston, we really have to understand that there's always going to be a disparity. I used to go down to City Hall, and we used to have these meetings on the disparity reports, and talk about, why is there such a disparity between minorities getting contracts as opposed to majority getting contracts, and why weren't more minorities rather being primes on contracts? Why were they all subs? So, we have to really and truly have these conversations and not be afraid to have those conversations, because there are some interesting opportunities there to solve some problems and to build more collaborations. Now, one thing I want to skip to this. Now, building relations, as I've been saying, here I have how Black-owned businesses can partner for success. Now, when I first start, thinking about, let's say, what am I going to speak about? My personal belief is that every community has its own challenges, just like I mentioned before. But I also believe that every community needs to come up with a strategic plan as how to solve those particular issues. Because, a lot of times we depend on other people or other people of different races to come in and solve our own problems. And even address the challenges. Sometimes it's not really a problem. Sometimes it's just a challenge that would be solved just by building more collaborations. Just like Carlos said, being able to collaborate and not always thinking about competition all the time. So here I have intraracial relations. And I put intra in all caps because there has to be an internal within your own community, an internal collaboration before there's an expectation of external collaboration. And then, we have a business credit program that is very popular lately. And one thing we found in the policies and even in building businesses and helping them to understand business credit, we found that there's a lot of moving the finish line, I guess you would say, in business credit. Why some lenders do not lend to minority-owned businesses. Why some lenders have stipulations for one group of people and have another stipulation for another group of people. And so we have to not pretend like these things don't exist, because they do. Within our company, we work with over 20 different lenders. And one thing that I found that, 1 minute, like 1 month, we submit a number of clients, but then we submit another number of clients the next month, and all of a sudden the rules change. We are prepping the client to make sure that they qualify for the funding, they qualify for the line of credit, they qualify for the purchase of the properties, and all of a sudden there's a change, without notification. And then when we ask, well, what is the change? Because we know that, you work with the prior client and this happened. Well, why is it not happening the same with this particular client? So we really have to be honest with ourselves and address those issues. Because, I end up becoming an advocate because I'm really passionate about, even in the playing field, even though we're in a race, we're still trying to build a global community to where we are able to build better relations. And like I said, the only way we can do that is, of course, through collaborations. We have to internalize that solution-oriented mindset. And then so we can bridge our collaborations externally. Procurement contracting circle. We actually have within the business credit program, we actually have a procurement section where we train the business owners how to establish your portfolio to prepare for qualifying for contracts. And within that, within the courses, we help them to establish a circle. So now we have a circle of individuals who are collaborating with each other. Just like, Mr. Gomez mentioned, if you are trying to get this contract and you're trying to get a contract, why don't we partner to get the contract together, okay? And then evaluate your business environment. You really have to understand and know what your true business environment is as opposed to what's being said. Because, one of the reasons why we're always having these talks about racial relations is because there are things that are said, but then there are underlying things that are done that's totally opposite to what we're understanding. And so that's how we end up right back at the drawing board to try to figure out, well, what's the problem? Well, what happened? I thought we were on the right track. Well, we were, but we have these systemic roadblocks, I guess you would say, systemic roadblocks that are stopping our communities from internally collaborating as well, not internally, but internally building a network so that we can apply and receive those contracts. And then also here I have now how minority-owned businesses can collaborate and Black minority-owned businesses. So notice that I talked about individual communities first, because, like I said, it's my belief that you really have to hone in into your own community and build more, relations there so you can understand each other, because not all melanated people have the same point of view. Not all melanated people have the same culture. There are two things that are most important when you're building relationship: that's spirituality and culture. And you have to understand how a person is guided spiritually, and you have to understand the education that they have, not indoctrination, but education, which means that they have to be in tune with their business environment, their community environment, to understand how to help that individual. So again, here I have interracial therapy. And that's really in regards to addressing those realistic issues that plague your own community, as well as the issues that plague the global community. Assist with mitigating against redlining. I recently actually saw a post that was talking about, these, different real estate buildings, these residentials and things of that sort. Everybody knows that in certain communities, we do not have the environmental support or the aesthetic support that we should have in certain communities because of redlining. A lot of people want to say that redlining is like a myth. We know it's not. We have to address these issues head on. Assist with stopping appraisal discrimination. Man, we just experienced this. We have a lender that just, we started this loan process. He's purchasing 3 properties. And the property purchase is, he has the cash, he has the perfect credit, he has everything, documentation, and guarantee you within our company, if he didn't have what he needed, we would have made sure that he had it, because we specialize in corporate tax, we specialize in asset protection, we specialize in corporation structuring. But within the appraisal process, for some reason, they kept going back and forth. It's like, oh, we can't get the appraiser to go out. We can't do this. And then when they appraise it, are they appraising it based on the actual value, or are they appraising it based on the color of the gentleman's skin? Because we know that happens. So, assist with stopping that type of discrimination has everything to do with building better relations, because if my house is appraised for one thing when I'm in it, but a total different thing when someone else of another race is in it, then that's a problem. Okay. And we know that exists. Assist with lender criteria, people in banking and hard money lending. People who work in banking and hard money, everybody can play their part to build better relations just by addressing these issues. Because if you're in banking or hard money lending, you see the disparity. You see the challenges. Let's not ignore it. That's how we can build better relations. And let's address the fact that, okay, yes, this does exist. Why does it exist? Let's read the policies. What does the policy say? Who is the determining person in the underwriting department who makes decisions that hinder most minority individuals from contracts or from banking or from lending? Okay. And then mainly the last thing is stop moving and finish line. Every time, I think that when we get to a certain level, to a certain point in our businesses, and we think, I'm certified here, I have this certificate, I have this, I have that, I have all of my my structure in place. Now, all of a sudden, there's a new criteria because there's too many minorities now getting these contracts. Oh, we can't have that. So we need majority-owned businesses to address their issues first, right? So that because honestly, we don't have the power. Majority-owned businesses have power because majority-owned businesses typically are the ones who are moving the finish line. So we really have to address that and have realistic conversations about a lot of these things in order to build better relations and grow sustainable businesses. And with that, I will turn it back over to you, James.
Appreciate that. You said a lot of good stuff there. You hit a lot of points that, you hit a lot of points. I'll just put it to you like that. I guess, for someone like me that didn't live through redlining, in my community, you can see that it exists. And I would venture to say that you would be able to see that in almost every community across America. And that's kind of the reason why you have pockets in communities. So Kansas City or, wherever it else may be, it's a predominantly African-American community, a predominantly Hispanic community. Like it's part of the reason why you have these pockets that exist. And I can tell you in Omaha, there is still language in, I can't remember what they're called, but it's basically language that says we don't want certain kind of people in this area. And it's essentially the same thing, right? And then when you talk about appraisal discrimination, there is an example that was captured this month, Black couple in California who put in a ton of money in their home, and it was appraised it was appraised once, and then they had a white lady come in, and it was at $500,000 higher. So real true examples that one could look up. And I believe that example happened, like I said, a couple of weeks ago. So
it did. I saw that. Yes.
Yeah. Thank you for all of that. I will pass it to Johnny now.
Thank you. Those are two hard acts to follow.
Just real quick, Tyra, Dr. Tyra, will you please turn your screen sharing off?
Oh, thank you.
No problem. Sorry, didn't mean to interrupt.
No problem. Dr. Tyra and Carlos, outstanding. I've been afforded the opportunity to work for Job Corps for many years that have allowed me to be in certain platforms where I've seen behind the door business deals and cooperation and collaboration amongst the majority. So now I'm working with Black-owned entrepreneurs, people starting their businesses and want to grow. And so the role that I'm playing on the board is to help empower, equip, and connect people together, because we can grow and we can do more. It amazed me by being on this board, some of the things, as Carlos was mentioning, that people don't understand the credentialing. It is so important when you're trying to run a business. It's like my mom used to always tell me, son, you got to have an education. The education gets you in the door, but your attitude is going to take you the rest of the way. And so I've made it my business to constantly strive and work with people to get those credentials. Working with the Job Corps program, we truly believe in stackable credentials, because our young people need to know if you're going to run a business or you're going to go and work for a company, you need to have all the certifications you can. And so now I'm working with young entrepreneurs and making sure they understand how to get their LLCs and how to build a brand and what that means. And it's been amazing and eye-opening to realize so many people that don't know. And I think it's so important, and you both hit it. that we educate. And I'm sitting here and I'm like, oh, Carlos, you know I'm going to call you now. And again, I've met Carlos and worked with Carlos, and I'm part of the Hispanic Chamber in Kansas City, and I live in Manhattan, Kansas. But that's not going to stop me from reaching out. And I think that you'll be amazed of the doors that is open. Just as many that was closed, there are also many that is opening. I'm on the committee here in Manhattan. It's the DEI, the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee, and working with everybody to brainstorm, to talk about the things that we've been through and what can we do to grow and to help each other. I was talking to one of the entrepreneurs here in town that was overwhelmed with her business. She have a Mexican restaurant and she's overwhelmed and she's trying to do everything. And I was sharing with her some resources that she can use, as well as collaborate with other people that is having restaurant, because the seating, you only can have so much seating now. And so we start talking about ways of catering and how you can partner with people and grow. There is so much money to be made if we open up our minds and we open up our hearts and we allow people to educate and help us grow these resources. Like Dr. Tyra, I'm going to get you information because you're going to speak to the Black entrepreneurs here in Manhattan. These are so many people that don't know. I'm also on the workforce board and a consortium of building bridges and bringing people together. And I want to put people in place to help and understand what it takes to grow businesses. I'm a part in everything I am. I'm a part of bringing people together, collaborating and developing. And so the passion that I have is just, it can become overwhelming because you see it. You see why businesses fail. You see why people get upset and go in the corners and say, no one's going to give me a chance. You know, you can see the frustration as you was talking about with the redlining. It's everywhere. You know, it's in small communities, it's in large communities. And we have to do a better job of understanding that we have differences, but we have so many likes. And so I'm taking the platforms that I've been afforded to be able to go into those doors, and I'm bringing people with me, because that's the only way change really happens. And I won't stop. I won't give up. I won't quit, because it's about empowering people. And so I thank you guys for having me on to talk about these things. And I don't want to repeat what was already said, but it is a day and it's a time that we must come together. It is the moment of truth. It is the moment that, you know, we marched the street with Black Lives Matter. We voiced our opinions across this world, and we was heard. But now that we have been heard, we must be empowered to make that next step. And that next step is about how do we come together? That next step is about growing. So many food trucks and people have outgrown their food trucks, and the only thing they need is a building, but the building is cost so much that they can't get into one. Well, we need the mentorships, as Carlos was talking about, from the majority business, taking on women-owned businesses and helping them, as well as veterans. You know, I work with government contracts, and I was sitting in the Black entrepreneurs meeting, and there was an African-American young man that ran his own cement company. And I'm like, wow, I wish I'd have known that. I have a cement trade, and we look for opportunities for our students to be able to work and do the work experience. And he would get that free labor, but he would also be able to have that partnership with the Job Corps program. And so we're bridging that gap. I just want to share one quick story and then I'll pass it on. A few weeks ago, I was asked to meet with some gentlemen, have very deep roots in this community in Manhattan, Kansas. And they wanted to know about the Job Corps program and what they could do to help. And it was about 8 gentlemen, Caucasian gentlemen, businessmen that I was speaking to. All of them, I think, was over 70. And I was talking to those gentlemen, and no one was smiling. No one made a nod. No one flinched. They looked at me as if I had 6 heads. And I was like, what in the world? And I kept on talking. I kept on speaking. And when I was done, I left that Zoom meeting and I felt so dejected. I was like, wow, here I am talking about young people that want an opportunity once they leave the Job Corps program, just to have an opportunity to walk in the door of college or to go and try and run their own business or to work for an employer. And sometimes they just need that extra help. And I was like, they didn't even flinch. And I'm thinking, being from the South, this is things that you have inside of you that you don't know as an individual. I'm thinking, man, they must be was racist. They didn't get it. And on my, I walked away and I was just dejected, and I kept processing this here, and it hit me. I call it God do a download, and he said, what if you really go a little deeper and remove racism and think about, these are businessmen who have done business for years and years and years, and that their poker face exists and it's for a reason. Maybe it's not because they dislike you or didn't want to hear what you said. Maybe it's because they've learned how to not show expressions when they're talking about business. And and that taught me something. That sometimes you can touch a heart before you shake a hand. Sometimes you can reach people and you don't know you're reaching them. So I'm encouraging, if there's young people out there that's watching this today, I want you to understand something. Don't be moved because you don't see a person reacting the way you think they should react. Don't be moved when you see someone that is not, you think that is not listening to you. There's a heart out there. There's young people out there today that we are speaking to. And when if I don't say nothing else, I want you to know that don't let anything stop you from growing. You can run your own business. You can have your dreams. Don't let no one steal or take away your opportunity to be the best version of yourself. You deserve that. And if you're a business owner, you fight to open those doors that seem closed. You go across that street and you shake that hand and you open those doors and you create an opportunity for those that's coming after you, because this is what it's about. If you change the way you think, you will change the way you do things. And that's how business grows. Thank you, guys.
So, I mean, I was going to give you an applause, but I'd be the only one clapping, definitely. But I really appreciate that. Very heartfelt, very true. I think the other thing I think about is all the things that you were talking about with these individuals. You have to remember, like, not you, but people listening, is they jumped on the Zoom call to have a conversation with you in the first place.
Yes.
So something was obviously there.
Yes.
Right? And doing economic development at, like I said, at different levels, the pendulum has swung. And I'm telling you, a while back, you would hear about companies when they would come into an area, they would ask about incentives. It's basically their first question. What can you give me? And like I said, the pendulum has swung now to where the first question is all about workforce and people. And we're having more and more conversations on corporate responsibility, right? They want to be green, they want to be diverse, they want to be responsible. And so, that's something that I've had to add to my toolkit, workforce development, which, when I was doing this years ago, that was probably the 5th or 6th question asked. Now it's one of the first questions that are asked by everyone, small, medium, and large.
Yes.
So you're doing a great thing there. And I can promise you, if certain folks don't want those kids, there are a lot of people who do. Because especially within the trades, pendulum has swung again. Everyone was forcing their kids to college, and now it's just like, you don't really have to do that to make a decent living.
Right.
So again, I've had to add workforce development to the toolkit, and you're doing something that a lot of people appreciate, I promise you. Let's see, do we have any questions? I know there were supposed to be like questions maybe submitted through the chat.
Here, yeah, I'm sorry, do you not see these here? I will make sure that you see them on the Q&A section on the bottom. I'll put it in the chat though, so that way you can see it.
Okay, so I have one question. May we have the contact information for the panelists? Sure.
We will possibly provide that afterwards, unless you want to do that in the chat now. But there is a question. It says that they are concerned. Oh, let's see. Hold on. Sorry.
Okay. I can read it.
Perfect.
Okay, so a question is, they're concerned about Black and brown people having access to the COVID vaccine, and asking what the vaccination rate is for Black people in Kansas, Hispanics, Latinos, and how do we as a majority of Black people get vaccinated in order to stop the spread of dying. We have achieved herd immunity. At least 80% of the US population must be vaccinated, and that includes people of color. Many people whose shoulders we stand next to. We're the first to take polio, mumps, tetanus, meningitis vaccines. It's our generation's turn to be the first and help with vaccine efficacy. So a lot of lots of stuff there. I'm not a medical expert, but I was a part of a conversation with Dr. Gould, who is the vice chancellor or the chancellor of University of Nebraska Medical Center. We will be hosting a COVID-19 town hall to answer these types of questions. So yeah, I don't know if anyone else wants to take a stab at that, but
James,
what I can tell you is my wife took the vaccine, and she doesn't have 6 fingers. So go ahead.
James, we're involved with the education of the vaccine. This obviously does affect, not only does it affect our community, all of our communities, but it affects business, obviously. And we want people to, it goes back to what Johnny said about education. I have talked to many people in my community, and they have told me they're not going to take it. There's a lot of misinformation out there. And we as minorities, we as non-minorities, as leaders, we need to make sure that we are encouraging people to get the vaccine, making sure it goes back to knowing the rules of the game. Do you know how to sign up for it? Are you calling? Should that be our responsibility? No, I put that on government, but if we wait for somebody to help us, we're going to be waiting a long time, and we historically have been. So it's up to us as minorities and to take it upon ourselves to get the wording out. And anyone who does get the vaccine, put it on your social media that you did it. People do watch you, believe it or not. And if they see that you got it, they're going to say, okay, now I feel comfortable about getting it. So, so far the reports I've seen in both Kansas and Missouri show that minorities we're not getting it anywhere near the percent of the majority. And what can be systematically, whether it's intentional or unintentional, we need to address that issue to make sure the vaccine is available to everyone.
Awesome. Dr. Tyra, go ahead.
Yes, I have a comment. I think that in some cases, it may be intentional on the part of the Black community. I know for that for sure, and maybe even other minority communities. To be honest with you, our communities don't trust the government. We have the history of the Tuskegee experiment. We have the history of where did HIV come from. We have a lot of history that tells us not to trust. So I think that in part of, having access to the vaccine, as opposed to also some people in various communities not really trusting the vaccine. And so we have these, and like I said before, when it has to do a relationship, when you establish a relationship with an individual and you've already have a track record of hurting a community or a track record of not really supporting a community and not pouring into a community so it can grow. But all of a sudden now you have, this vaccine. So I think that's the trust issue as well within the minority communities.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So let me put this question out there, and it kind of goes back to the talk about building capacity. So when both you and Dr. Carlos and Tyra were talking, I circled build capacity on the books. Now, tell me if you've heard something like this before. Someone gets on a project as a sub. They don't have bonding, but they do $250,000, $350,000 worth of work. Then they want to go and this is mainly construction because I know a little bit more about construction than anything else. Then they go and they say they want to be a prime on a project and say, hey, I've done $300,000 worth of work, but they didn't get bonding on it, and the project requires them to have bonding, right? Has that been something that you've heard happen? So how can we tell people or inform people on building their aggregate bonding capacity in construction or in anything else? I mean, if there are any other examples where people are doing work on projects, but not necessarily getting the credit. So when they want to go out and say, hey, I've done this before, I've done large projects before, they say, show me. And you can't because, again, you were working under someone and didn't necessarily have it on your, on your books.
Here's what I would say. First of all, building capacity, when I talk to construction is a whole nother animal on growth. A contract, it's one of the industries where a contract can put you out of business. And a lot of times as small businesses or minority firms, I got this big contract, not realizing if I don't have the capacity to do it, it's going to put me out of business. Or I get a big contract and I don't have contracts to follow it. So I skyrocket in staffing and everything, and all of a sudden nothing to follow it, and I crash. And I have seen that happen firsthand. So the key in any business, but particularly construction, is you want controlled growth. You want to make steps. And sometimes, and this is going to sound tough, you may have an opportunity that you get the contract, but you may have to say no to it if you don't have the capacity. This goes back to the collaboration. Collaborate with other firms, minority or majority, to go after a project together. But you want to have a plan for controlled growth, because what will happen is you'll run into cash flow problems, as Dr. Taylor mentioned earlier. If you are just growing and taking on jobs you can't handle, you're going to quickly run into cash flow problems and you're going to be in trouble. Now, have I heard that happen? I haven't heard that per se, but it goes back to building a resume of work that you've done to show these companies that, hey, I do quality work, and look at my resume, and to have those backings. So, when you go into federal contracting, the key is the reviews. So a lot of times I tell firms, get a small job, your first job, get something small, over deliver. And then now all these other government agencies are saying, wow, look at that review on that firm. And then that's when the opportunity starts to grow. And then the last thing you said, James, was about the growth and the bonding. Yeah, just having those resources there, you definitely want to have all the backing to make sure you're successful in any project.
Awesome, thank you. So
and one last thing,
as
minority firms, I learned this from a member who was Native American firm, construction. He got very successful, very, very successful. He bought himself a Bentley. He drove the Bentley to the work site. He never got a contract from that prime again. So no, he went and bought a Ford Taurus after that, and he kept the Bentley on weekends. So you gotta be careful when you're a sub. you want to show your growth, but you don't want to flash it because some of the people that gave you those contracts may think you're too big now.
Mhm. Awesome. That's a good tip. So another question for all panelists, how do we partner with you all to help our college students for internships?
Oh, wow. Just give me a call. Man,
Yeah.
we are looking for, a number of individuals to fill a lot of positions. We've worked with a lot of, in the past, we've worked with a lot of HBCUs here. We've worked with TSU. We've had interns from TSU, from Prairie View, from Southern University in Louisiana. A lot of what we do is virtual. So I just say, get in touch with me because we're always open to work with interns because we have an intern program, actually for, working within our company. So we're definitely open for that.
We are too. We definitely, if just get my information, give me a call, and we can use you in multiple areas. So please reach out.
Same thing here. Reach out to us. We, as a not-for-profit, we depend on volunteers and interns.
Yes.
So I guess wrapping this thing up, great discussion, great presentation, great thoughts, great comments. But with all of that being said, if you could leave us with one last thing that maybe hasn't been said or one thing that you really want to highlight from this topic and this conversation, what would that be? And I think we'll go in reverse order this time. So Johnny, Dr. Tyra, and then Carlos.
I would say if I can leave you with one thing, I'll say stop looking in the window and open the door and build those relationships that's going to make a difference. There's a lot of people that is willing to work with minority business. Please reach out and strive to grow your business.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I would say in reference to specific to Kansas, just like with any other state and also within Topeka, just like within any other city, one thing you really have to understand is that from my point of view, and this may not be everybody's point of view, entrepreneurs pretty much run the city, and you really have to start with your city government in terms of real impact and true results from the community, within the community. But I believe it starts with entrepreneurs. Entrepreneurs are the first people to hire, individuals with no experience. They're the first people who will be open to teach and grow and train. And that training is priceless. So I would say definitely for Topeka, tap into your entrepreneur market and collaborate, collaborate with each other in terms of business and see what you can do to develop an entrepreneur's paradise that would feed the communities that we're trying to feed, the Black community, the Hispanic community, and all of the other communities. So I would just definitely recommend that for the city of Topeka and definitely also for all of the different cities in Kansas.
Awesome. My advice would be clear your mind. These have been challenging times. Last year, this year is going to be just as challenging, if not more so, even though we see light at the end of the tunnel. Don't let all the negativity that's out there in the media, that's out there. There's huge opportunity right now. Huge opportunity. Go get it. The businesses that I've been working with that I've seen, I have a few restaurants that are having record years. And I've tried to analyze why are they having a record year? And I can tell you the first thing is the attitude. The attitude of I'm going to just be out there and I'm going to hustle. I'm not going to let this hit me out. If it's going to hit me, it's going to hit me as least as possible. And so get out there, be positive. And when you run into that negativity, don't let it get you down. Channel that into some positive energy and work harder. My favorite quote is from motivational speaker Les Brown, which I had the opportunity to have just talk to him about a month ago on the phone. And it's people don't fail because they aim high and miss. People fail because they aim low and hit. So there's opportunity, go get it.
Yes.
I was going to end with some quote, but I think that's a way better quote than what I was going to say. So, again, I appreciate you all for joining. For everyone that has questions on how to contact all of our panelists, you should be able to reach out to the people who has set this thing up, and they should be able to give you contact information. If not, I have their contact information. You could just type my name in Google OPPD and you'll find my contact information, and then I'll send you their contact information. How's that? I think that's it. And again, I appreciate you all. Everyone have a good day, and thanks for all of the attendees for attending this conversation.